Hey folks, it's Feeling McPhalen, back here on a Thursday, and continuing our discussion from yesterday. I'm sort of going to talk about something a little bit different today, but kind of related, is when to know when too much apologetics becomes enough, or when enough becomes too much. And that's a difficult question. That's something that I don't think I can answer for anybody else. I don't think I can answer that for you. You can't answer that for me. But I think there is a stopping point. There's a point at which you have to draw a line and say that beyond this point, it's going to impact my walk with Christ. It's going to impact my relationship with God. It's going to impact my peace of mind. And it's going to be a negative journey, not a positive journey. And if you could create that stopping point, identify that stopping point, you're going to be like so much ahead of where other people are in their spiritual journey. Because a lot of people don't have that internal compass whereby they can see when too much is enough or enough is too much. And I know this from personal experience because back in early 2011, I got burned out, and I had been combating hyperpreterism every day on a daily basis for like 3 or 4 years. And man, I got burned out. I felt I had gotten to a point where I said everything I could have possibly said about hyperpreterism, and I was just spinning my wheels. And it was starting to impact my spiritual well-being. It was starting to impact my walk with Christ, and I left. I walked. I shut down my blogs. I deleted my social media accounts. I walked, man. I walked. And I had other things going on in my life as well. I had relocated to Dallas. That's another story. And it was urgent and imperative that I put my main focus on my career and making a living. So it facilitated my departure from apologetics. And I took like a 4-year sabbatical from apologetics. Well, that 4 years was intentional. It ended up being an 8-year sabbatical almost, which was unintentional. It's probably a little bit too much. Because in 2014, I got a university job, started working for SMU, and I became a workaholic. I was working, in the peak season, I was working 15-hour days, I was working weekends, I was helping do event setups, and I became a workaholic. I did not have very much time for theology. I did still study, but it was sporadically. I did still do some interaction, but it was very sporadic. Wasn't very much. I would drop in, drop out, that kind of thing. But what I gained from that was the hindsight of experience and realizing the wisdom of taking a break sometimes from this whole apologetic business, or even if not taking a break, just knowing where to draw the line and say, look, I've tried to convince this person. I've tried again and again. I've presented all the arguments that I could try. Or I've been on this forum for over a year. I've been wrangling, going back and forth with people on this forum. It's not working out. There's nothing but dissension, discord, and it's hurting my spiritual walk with Christ. I may need to take a break. It's such a thing as knowing when to shake off the dust of your feet as a testimony against them. And sometimes we have to do that. I'm not going to say that I can't prescribe anything for you, and you can't prescribe for me. But, a lot of people that don't have that stopping point, that don't recognize that stopping point, don't create that stopping point, and don't put their foot down, don't draw that line in the sand, they end up getting burned out. They end up getting frustrated. They end up getting, feeling apathetic. They end up, having problems. I'm talking about emotional problems. I'm even talking about, mental problems. And worst case scenario is when you don't have that stopping point, Christians can end up persecuting other Christians. You always hear of the case of Calvin and Servetus. Calvin and Servetus, they started off by going toe-to-toe, Scripture versus Scripture. They made their respective arguments, and I guess Calvin couldn't refute Servetus. Even though Servetus was wrong, he was on the wrong side of the equation, right? But Calvin had trouble refuting Servetus. He ended up using his civil authority to persecute Servetus unto death. That kind of thing happens when we don't create that stopping point. When with all his wisdom and all his knowledge and all his learning, Calvin didn't know when to say, okay, this guy's a heretic, this guy's a problem to the church, this guy's a threat to the church. However, he has his judgment with God. I'm going to drop it right here. I'm going to remove myself from this equation, and I'm going to let God deal with him. He didn't have that spiritual maturity to do that. He used his civil authority to persecute another man, another human being, and to kill another person. So that is the worst case scenario of not knowing when to create stopping points. And if you feel like you're just spinning your wheels, if you feel like you're not getting anywhere, sometimes it's good to take a break. It doesn't have to be a long break, maybe a couple weeks, just to refresh yourself, recharge your batteries. Let the wounds heal. If you got some scratches or some flesh wounds, just let them heal. Rest up, recuperate, rejuvenate, and then come back at it. Because if you don't do that, it can tell on your spiritual walk. It can tell on your relationship with God. You get in the flesh. You get to that fleshly sort of way of doing things, and that fleshly way of defending the faith. We have to remember that we're fighting against principalities and powers. We're not fighting against flesh and blood. So all of this religious tomfoolery, all of this religious deception that's going on is spiritual. It's a spiritual deception. And it's something that we have to recognize as spiritual. I remember C.I. Scofield saying something to the effect of, the average lost person is never called a child of the devil. It's religious people, religious deceivers that are called children of the devil. And I think that's true. You don't become a child of the devil until you enter that religious sphere and engage in that religious sort of deception. And that's when you become Satan's tool, Satan's, instrument. So we want to make sure that we understand that we're fighting not against flesh and blood, but we're fighting against principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness in high places. And to know that sometimes it's good to take those rests, to have those periods of rest and refreshment and recoupment, so that we can go back at it and wage the battle with a sense of victory and not a sense of defeat. But that's something that I can't prescribe for anybody else. You can't prescribe for me. I can't prescribe for you. But we don't know what the mystery of iniquity. We know it's a mystery, but we don't know why some people, they hear the truth, they understand the truth, they understand what you're telling them, they see the point of your reasoning, and they understand that their position is wrong, and yet they continue to reject it. And we don't know why that takes place. It's a mystery, as Paul says. It's a mystery of iniquity. Or at least it's related to that mystery of iniquity of which Paul spoke. So, let's take a look at the big picture and just see that, we're only small pawns in this game. This channel here, it's a very small channel. What I say today, what I say tomorrow is probably going to make very little impact on the whole debate, the whole discussion. What you and I are doing, we're just skirmishing before the castle gates. We're not even in the vestibule. We're certainly not in the council chamber. We don't make decisions. We're just kind of, skirmishing. And it's okay to take a break. It's okay to, take 5. We could do that. So, that's my experience, and, that's the wisdom based on my experience, if you want to call it wisdom. And I just hope everyone understands that it's okay to take a break. It's okay to walk from a debate. It's okay to walk from an argument, because if you don't do that, you can end up with problems. Let's just leave it at that. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. I don't know if I'll be back tomorrow. I will try to have another one tomorrow. But thanks again for everybody's comments, your feedback, your thoughts, your opinions, your observations. I do appreciate it. I will see you online later. In the meantime, have a great day, and so long. Bye.